Well, I really do love guinea fowl, but these crested francolin, although they are in long grass, are also very pretty little birds that are quite similar to guinea fowl in their habits. They live in small flocks or coveys, and they also spend a lot of time on the ground. Well, they do all their feeding on the ground, and much like a guinea fowl and a chicken, they'll use their feet to scratch around and unveil little insects or seeds. So they're omnivores, and they're busy going about, I'm fairly certain, the same business as the guinea fowl that you're viewing with Brent. They've got the very distinctive white stripe through their eye, so easy to distinguish between the other francolin of this area. And thankfully, we not only are here with this covey of francolin who appear to be coming closer and closer to us, which is a bonus, but there's also a very large animal feeding not too far from us. And we're going to take you across for a quick look at that. Ta-da! An elephant! And I've only seen 2 so far, but there could be more within this herd. Because it's quite hot at the moment, the elephants seem quite relaxed and are very lazily feeding this afternoon. Thankfully, they are feeding towards us, or at least this individual is, so we can patiently wait here and see how close it comes towards us. As it moves, you'll see that little blackbird following it, and I'm sure for the regular viewers you'll be very accustomed to the fork-tailed drongos, but for the new viewers, they're wonderful little birds that will follow large herbivores, even sometimes small animals, in the hope that they will flush insects that they can fly down and capture on the wing. So unlike the francolin, who will feed on the ground, the fork-tailed drongo typically do most of their feeding in the air. I'm just going to reposition ever so slightly to try and get us a better angle and allow this elephant to keep feeding towards us. Great, well, we should be able to get some closer visuals of this Ellie, and I think it's its mother off to the right, the initial elephant that we did see, and it could be the elephant that crossed the road with its tail out, could be an older generation also from that cow, so it could just be the 3 of them moving together, but hard to say at this stage, and the rest of the herd could be in this thick vegetation up ahead. Well, I pointed out the go away bird calling earlier, but now Julia has just asked, what is the other bird that we can hear calling? And if it's that robotic kind of sound, it would be the fork-tailed drongo. That's the only other call that I've picked up on, but I may have been tuned into a different frequency to you. So I'm going to listen more closely now to see if I can hear any other birds calling. Also a little bit tricky for me to know exactly what you are hearing relative to what I'm hearing. The microphones do pick up audio incredibly well, but they're quite directional, so depending on where the camera is facing, it will alter quite drastically the sounds you will hear. Beautiful golden afternoon sunlight. This is absolutely awesome. And the bird call you can hear now is the fork-tailed drongo, so if that is the same call you were hearing earlier, then we are on the same page. Now, you'll notice it's very windy, and you can also hear the wind being picked up by the microphone. And we often mention how the wind can make the prey animals more nervous. But Tom now has just asked whether it doesn't play both ways. Does it not make it harder for the predators to hear their prey and detect their prey? Yes, it certainly will make it harder for predators to hear their prey, but that doesn't make the prey items feel any safer simply because there's slightly less chance that they may be detected by a predator. They simply know that they cannot hear anything approaching them. So even though it does decrease the chance to a degree of a predator finding them, that doesn't make them feel any better, because there still is that chance that every noise they hear could be a leopard or a lion creeping up on them, and that's why they are on high alert. So I certainly hear where you're coming from, but if you put yourself in the prey item's shoes, it's not going to be enough to make you feel better about things, and you still, every little rustle you hear, you're going to turn your head to make sure it's not something. At least I know I would. Now, at this time of the year, the elephants can start getting quite resourceful in order to get to whatever plants have not been fed on yet. And this big cow appears to be moving some fallen down trees that have been acting as a natural barrier against other animals eating them. But the elephants can come and move branches and fallen down trees to access these untapped resources. And let's see if she doesn't do it again. I can hear a lot of rattling testiculars alarm calling off to our left. So I'm just looking across there. It would possibly tie in with the go-away birds alarm call that we heard earlier. And maybe there is a predator moving through this area. Possibly Shadow, looking for her and Sindile's next meal. I think I found out what it could be. Now we can now hear a pearl-spotted owlet calling. So it's possibly that these rattling testiculars and other birds have found this little predatory owl. And now even the fork-tailed drongo amongst these elephants are also joining in the cacophony. So it's in all likelihood a tiny little owl that's causing all the disturbance. And that's why it is difficult to respond to every alarm call that we may hear. It can sometimes be for something small that's difficult to find, like a pearl-spotted owlet or a slender mongoose. We did actually get lucky and find a pearl-spotted owlet at the beginning of yesterday's sunset safari, for those of you that were with us. And maybe we'll get to show you another one this afternoon. Last I heard, Sandile was still fast asleep in the same place we left him. So I'm not sure if it's going to be worth us heading back there now. We'll spend a bit more time with these Ellies. We'll possibly head back there. We also do have the fireside chat that we need to get back to. So that will have an impact on the plans for this afternoon. And for those of you who may have just joined in the last few minutes, just a reminder that we do have the fireside chat to look forward to. Look at this. Awesome, it gave us a little bit of a head shake there to show us who's boss. And maybe it will continue to give us a little bit more attitude. It's so close you can maybe even hear it chewing. Oh, there's the fork-tailed drongo shooting in for an easy meal. Come and say hello to us. What it's doing is it's plucking out tiny acacia saplings. They look like flaky bark acacias. And again, this goes to show how selective they are, and also how it very cleverly used its foot there to aid in breaking that branch off. There's some Aramark babblers approaching us, so that may be the noise you can hear. Now we might get an example of how the Ellies will try and feed on vegetation that's underneath or growing in and amongst hard to reach places, like underneath this small leadwood tree. And I guess that's the benefits of having a trunk. You can reach in these hard to reach places. Now, you may have noticed that the views you were getting on Brent's camera were slightly different a little bit earlier on the drive, and it's a new camera that we are trying out at the moment, and it appears to be giving us a little bit of trouble at the moment. So we're trying to troubleshoot the problem, but at the moment the camera is not operational. Sadly, it was working initially, as you would have seen, but for some reason unbeknownst to us, it is all of a sudden cut out, and the other camera is in for routine maintenance. Understandably, on these bouncy, dusty roads, the cameras get more than their fair share of use and punishment, you could say. So the other camera is back in Johannesburg getting fixed, which leaves us just with the one camera that you are looking at now, and you're stuck with me for the foreseeable future. Oh wow, the fork-tailed drongo just came and landed right in front of us here. And you can hear kind of how the noise is fairly robotic that it makes. They can mimic the calls of other birds and even other animals. They're very, very clever, the fork-tailed drongos. And they've been known to mimic the calls of drongos and of mongooses and meerkats, so that they drop their prey and scurry back into their burrows, and then the drongo can fly down and steal their prey without them even knowing. Obviously, a lot of the time the drongo will be providing them with a real alarm call for any potential threats, and in the in general they'll be doing the mongooses and meerkats a favor, but from time to time they claim their payments, I guess, for helping being extra eyes. Wonderful. The arrow-marked babblers are singing to us again. And isn't that a wonderful noise to hear? There'll be probably about 5 or 6 of them calling together, and they do fly around in these family flocks. This is how it does test some pieces of grass or vegetation and then toss them aside, not convinced at how tasty they may be. Well, some of you may have been here while we first came across these elephants, and the one that crossed the road held its tail out horizontally, so it wasn't dangling down comfortably like the individual we can see now. And I mentioned that it was signs that the elephant wasn't entirely happy, and Ron from Scotland would like to know, what other signs can we look for with elephants? And not only what should we look out for if they may not be happy with our presence, but what should we do if they are not happy with our presence? It's a great question, Ron, and always a difficult one to answer, because there are often many variables within any of these equations. But in general, if elephants hold out their tail horizontally, it means you should not put any further pressure on them, and either stop where you are or even possibly retreat. Now, because that was a youngster, I wasn't too concerned about it attacking us, but had it have been an adult, I certainly would have stopped the vehicle and possibly even switched off, and in some scenarios may back up. Now, other signs or signals that we should look out for are the head held high, ears out facing us, making themselves look as big as possible and as intimidating as possible. And the reason why they would do that is obviously because they feel threatened, and they now want to try and make themselves feel that they're putting on a show to warn you how big they are and how dangerous they could be. So that's another major sign. Whether to back up or stand your ground is always a tricky one. If you do have a clear path to exit a sighting, it can often be a good option. But if you don't, by backing up a little bit, it gives the animals a false sense of ownership or dominance, and they feel that, okay, well, the person's backing up, I'm going to continue to put pressure on them, and that can be a slippery slope. So sometimes standing your ground would be better, because it'll make the animals think twice, be it elephant or lion or rhino. Most of the animals, by standing your ground and staying put, it makes them think twice about committing to a charge. Sometimes even driving towards a charging elephant can help deter it, because it thinks, "Jeez, this person seriously means business. Now they're coming towards me. Maybe I should reconsider things." And it's not dissimilar from how us as humans would respond. Even if somebody half your size came up to you, Ron, but was very confident and very aggressive towards you, you may think twice about taking them on. Whereas if that same person was to turn and run, and you were in an altercation with them, you would chase them and run them down, because you'd immediately feel more dominance over them and be more inclined to attack them. And it's very similar with a lot of the animals out here. So the tail held out horizontally, head held high, ears held out, making themselves look big, are things to look out for. Also, one last thing that's quite a useful tip, Ron, is when viewing elephant bulls, especially large bulls, if you see them draping their trunk over their tusk, to the side of their tusk, it's often associated with them being in must. And when they are in must, it's no guarantee, but there is a chance that they are going to be more boisterous and more aggressive and a little bit more violent than when they are not in must. And for those of you who are not sure what must is, it's a sexually heightened stage where testosterone levels are increased dramatically within bull elephants. It happens sporadically throughout the year, anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months at a time. And during these stages, it is certainly worth giving them a wider berth, in case they are not wanting to be playful with you or be tolerant of you. A frequently asked question by our viewers and by guests who come on safari is, how do you determine the age of animals? And Keith is interested to know specifically for elephants. It's extremely difficult, Keith, and I guess I could ask the same question back to you. How would you age humans? You could line up an array of different aged people and guess their ages and be wrong with quite a few of them, and they're our own species. So for us to guess the age of animals is very difficult. And I'm a firm believer that the only way to be certain is to have been there when the animal was born and then keep track of it every day thereafter. But there are some rough guidelines that we can use. This youngster that we're looking at, I would guess, is about 2 to 3 years of age, but it is a tricky one. Another rule of thumb that can be applied to elephants is that if a mother's calf can pass underneath its stomach, it is under a year of age, and if it can't, well then it's over. But understandably, you could get a short mother with a tall calf and vice versa. So it's no easy way to do it. The fact that this one's tusks are not protruding doesn't really mean too much, because other elephants of its same size could already have tusks protruding. But at a guess, I would say anywhere from 2 to 3 years of age for this one. With the older females, when they do get very old, and the males, you can see there's a very small dent above the eye of this calf. When the sunlight connects at the right angle, it's actually, just about now, it looks pretty good. A few inches above its eye, there's a very small dent. Now, that dent will become pronounced as it becomes older, until when it's a very old cow or calf, there will be a large depression that you could almost nest a grapefruit in. Oh, I think we might be getting some attitude. Hello. Oh, no, it reconsidered. It reconsidered. It was thinking about showing us who was boss, but now is hurriedly heading back to the side of the vehicle where its mother is. Gracie, good to have you with us. And Gracie's just 8 years old, and she's asked, what does it mean if the elephants hold their ears close to their head or flat against their head? It usually means they're quite relaxed, Gracie, and it also means that they're not very hot. When the weather's very warm and they want to cool down, they will flap their ears out, and they've got lots of veins that they can pump blood through that helps them to keep cool. So in hot weather you see them flapping their ears quite a lot, but when they're relaxed and the weather's cool and they're in a very good mood, they typically just hold their ears flat against their head. So that's typically the behavior we see them doing, unless of course they are charging you and they are fully committed to running at you. And when it's a mock charge or a display charge, when they're trying to show you that they're big and strong, their ears will be out to make themselves look big. But as soon as they mean real business, they will flatten their ears against their head, curl up their trunk, and come running up to you and then possibly hit you with their trunk. So that's not what we want, but that is another time that they would hold their ears flat against their head. But it's a little bit different to, I think, what you mean here when it's just moving around. Wow, we just have to reposition again. I think I'm going to leave these elephants to their own devices and possibly try and sneak back to Sindile, see if we can get one last view of him. I'm not sure what we're going to do about the fireside chat, due to the fact that there's only one camera now, but we will keep you posted on that as the show commences. But for now, I'm just going to continue on as normal. Wendy in Florida is interested to know a little bit more about must, the sexually heightened stage that the elephant bulls will get into. And she'd like to know, does it happen at a specific time of year? Or are there any kind of set things that we can expect from elephants in must and how often it happens? It's at any time during the year. And the reason for that is that elephants typically don't have a set breeding season. It would be a little bit difficult for them to plan in advance because it's a 22-month gestation period. So it's useful that males are coming into the sexually heightened stage at all stages through the year. That way ensuring that there's always some males around chasing the females down, hoping to mate with them, and ensuring that females who are in season do get mated with. So it can happen at any stage, and it can last, like I said a little bit earlier, from anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, and their behavior in that stage will depend on the individual. But the word must, interestingly, is actually derived from an Indian word called, or actually meaning mischievous in Indian, and that would have been used on the Indian elephants. So in general, they are a little bit mischievous when they are in must, I guess. Well, I have some great news, everyone, and somebody, I'm not sure exactly who, but managed to fix Brent's broken camera that we're test driving at the moment. So he would like to give you an update on what's going on, and we will see you all a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. We've had a few teething problems, but it looks like we've got that sorted for now. So what we're going to do, as I said earlier, when I had that buffalo skull, I took it out from a different area, and I brought it with us to show you those horn moths. So I'm going to actually go put it back with the rest of those bones, and we can actually then go have a look at what a buffalo carcass will look like even later. This buffalo, from what I heard from our long-time viewers, is that it was actually killed by the Styx Pride quite a long time ago. I can't remember the year, so but we're going to go return it. So maybe if you guys can remind me, our long-term viewers, which years this buffalo was killed, and it was killed by the Styx Pride opposite the Djuma waterhole. And you can send your answers to questions at WildEarthTV or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Okay, so we've just arrived back at the carcass. I'm just going to position so them can have a good view over it. Okay, so we have returned to the scene of me stealing the buffalo skull. I'm going to go put it back now. There we go. Incredibly heavy. I guess even now that it's lost the bottom jaw and the nose, still probably about 2.5, 3 kilograms. So close on 10 pounds, probably 7, 8 pounds. And I can even tell you, I picked it up from right. Yeah. So as you can see, now this is a buffalo carcass that's gone on further, and you can see how the bones are spread, those sinews that are holding that one we saw earlier together, the fresh carcass, and the animals have spread it. Hyenas might have taken a piece off, and got a bottom jaw here. And see, this buffalo actually looks a little bit younger than the one that the Nkuhumas caught. The teeth aren't quite as badly worn as the one with the Nkuhumas. But there we go. That's a buffalo jawbone. Very big jawbone. And I'm going to have a quick, careful look at the rest of the bones. See if I can find something interesting about them. Problem with so many bones is so many bones to look at. That looks a little more promising. There we go. So what I was looking for, and it's going to be a little bit difficult, but you can see this has been gnawed. by something very small. So it hasn't been a big animal like a hyena or a lion. Tiny little teeth marks. And I'm reckoning these are from an animal that is probably much smaller than this bone. I think it's one of the little mouse species that's come and chewed on here to try collect on calcium. And I've actually seen impala and inyala feeding on this specific buffalo set of bones to try get calcium. So there you go. Isn't that fascinating? So I'm hoping when I jump back in my seat, one of our old-time viewers can tell us what year this happened, and we'll see what a buffalo looks like over time. One last thing before we move along is you can actually see here's a piece of the buffalo's boss, and that is all horn moth larvae. If we go underneath, which is really interesting, you can see these are all empty now. The moths have hatched from them, but you can see how they burrow and eat through, right through, and this would be the thickest part of the buffalo's boss. Absolutely incredible. I mean, look at that. It's almost like a honeycomb in there. And from the top, you can see there's the boss, and then it's just this mass of horn moth larvae, carapaces here, not carapaces, sort of housings. And you can see there how you can actually, I don't know, VM, can you see through the light?
Yeah.
So you can see how they've gone right the way through this piece of buffalo boss.
A bit too close. Yeah.
Bit too close? How's that?
Yep.
So you can see how they've gone directly through. Absolutely incredible that this is probably one of the only animals in the world that's able to digest keratin. So a very, very specialized little niche filled by a tiny moth. That's what's so amazing about the bush, is that everything has its place. Let's get moving again. Enough talking about old bones, and see what else we can find.
Hopefully the guys will be able to get to the bottom of it. I am technologically void, so I won't even be able to have a clue as to what's going on. If it worked in the beginning, I don't know why it's not working now, basically. Anyway, we shall now probably think about diverting the fireside chat plan. It's probably not going to be possible, but who knows? It may still happen, but for now I think it's best for me to just carry on as normal, and don't worry, we also enjoy the fireside chats just as much as you do, so we will make sure if it's not done this evening, it will be done on another day. And everything does happen for a reason, so maybe we should head off and see what we can find, because at the end of the day we can sit around a fire any day of the week, but we can't necessarily go and watch the hyena arrive at the remains of that buffalo carcass, can we? So I think I'm going to head off there, and if needs be and we manage to resolve the problem, we can always alter the plan. But for now, I think I may start hustling off in that direction, because it's getting to that stage of the evening where the hyena may be starting to rustle about. Okay. Well, after all I've just said, Brent's camera is now working again. So we are going to stick to the original plan. But like I said right at the beginning of the drive, the plans often change out on safari, so don't be surprised if it changes again. Well, I'm just going to stop here, try and get Brian into a good spot to show you the setting sun. It's not your typical view that we would stop and show you, and that's why I'm keen to try and do it because there's some beautiful marula skeletons out to the horizon, and maybe worth letting Brian have a little spin on the camera. He may alter a few settings just to make the shot work out, because we are going to be shooting directly into the sun. But I really do love marula trees, and they are an iconic tree of this area, and at this time of the year their silhouettes make for really beautiful views. So let's take a look. Now the marulas are the very large trees that we can see, one on the right of your screen, one kind of growing out of the sun, and there's a combination of other trees around, most of which have got bare leaves. The one with leaves you can clearly see up to the left of the sun is an apple leaf tree, one of the few evergreens that we'll find growing out on crests like this. And we've got some die-hard trees, or the bush willows on the left you're zooming past now, who are hanging on to a few leaves, but they will continue to drop. And like I said, these are the strongest of the bush willows that are still managing to hold their leaves. Most of them would have dropped off. What a beautiful view. Well, we really are spoilt with some beautiful scenery here on Safari Live, and sometimes it's important to just stop and take a look around, even if there's no animals around. But speaking of looking around, you are about to have a drastic change of scenery and head over to Brent and carry on the adventure with him. We'll see you a bit later.
Welcome back, folks. I'm taking a leaf out of the Leopards and Lions book, and I'm getting on top of a termite mound to use this as an advantage where Aubrey thinks these leopards have gone to. I've just heard a Franklin alarm calling on the other side of the drainage line. It did sound quite stressed. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa! That was close. But we're going to get moving now. I'm going to go back into that area where we heard that Franklin alarm calling, and hopefully those leopard tracks have moved into this area. Now, getting down this termite mound probably going to be a little bit more difficult than getting up. So, which way do you think, Firm? Front or what? Front or back?
The front is steeper.
Front is steeper, so you
go
obviously
down-
want me to go
yes.
down the front. Okay, let's see. The wildebeest wants to laugh at me. And there's a nice thorny creeper I didn't notice when I first came up. Okay, you ready? Termite mountain surfing. There we go. Not too bad. Hey, you thought I was going to fall. So that, on a more serious note, those alarm calls did sound quite positive, and the leopard tracks were heading in this direction. It is quite a thick area, but we are going to try drive along a big elephant path and see if we manage to find anything. We're right in front of Gallagher Camp, and so might have heard some people and kids. They're getting ready for their fireside chat. And I'm sure by now the fire's been started. And the rest of the guests out in Game Drive, a few of them have just decided to enjoy the evening from camp. So back to that large, or the buffalo carcass, that old one we were just looking at, and I picked up quite a big bone. Lee is wondering why nothing ate that whole bone. So the only thing that possibly could break up some of that bone is a hyena. Again, there's not enough reward for the hyena to break up that bone, so that's probably why not. And slowly over time it will get broken up by the elements, and also by things like giraffe and impala and the rodents chewing on that bone for calcium. Sorry guys, I'm just going to concentrate a little bit as we drive through here. I'm just going to pop my earpiece off for a second. Those alarm calls came from this drainage line down to our right. I just want to get past this sticky part. We have found Mvula in this area quite a few times, as well as Krula. So at the moment, as far as I can tell you, we are looking for a male leopard, an adult male leopard from the Tracks Aubrey farm, and they came in from the north directly towards this area, and this area is a myriad of small drainage lines, so it is quite easy for them to disappear. So I'm just going to concentrate quite for a second. I'm just going to get a little bit higher in my seat as well. The reason I'm doing this is so I can see down into the drainage line while we go very slowly along here. I think we're going to try this little track that goes down into the drainage line. That Franklin alarm call was in this general area. So we're just going to stop here on the edge of this very big dip that I'm not going to be able to cross. And just listen for a few seconds and see what we can hear. If you guys hear any birds, we might hear some birds at this time of the day, so listen out carefully and see how many species you can hear over the next while. Very carefully and listen out. I'm pretty sure that Franklin alarm call came from around that large termite mound that we're making our way towards. Also, zoomies keep on looking and arrive at the Djuma Dam, so keep watching there as well. Have a quick look around here. we were discussing about those Franklin alarm calls. Normally I wouldn't put so much effort into a Franklin alarm call. It could be from a predatory bird, but I did have a look there. I didn't see any predatory birds. It could be from a slender mongoose. Quite often it is from an animal like a slender mongoose. But the fact that the male leopard tracks were heading in this area is what prompted me to go into that drainage line and try have a better look around where that those alarm calls were. But guys, don't forget, it's Sunday night, so fireside chat. And please remember to tune in at about 5:30. Scotty's on his way there, setting up already, and I'll be joining him just after 5:30. As well, the questions that you can send through for fireside chat. We're going to be discussing that incredible behavior that Scotty witnessed at the hyena den on the Sunrise Safari a few days ago. And we will also be discussing that amazing buffalo hunt of the Nkahumas. So please do join us for fireside chat. So just an update on what else is going on that's in the reserve. I've just spoken to one of the other, or not spoken to, heard one of the other guides, and they are at the last position of that buffalo carcass that the Nkahumas have killed, and there are no hyenas or anything there yet. I think they're probably still a bit nervous, thinking that that male lion's still around. So those leopard tracks might have headed more this way, so we're going to check carefully along here and a little bit further up the Weatela access road, and hopefully we find some tracks or hear some alarm calls that lead us to that animal. There's a strong likelihood this leopard we're looking for could be Mvula. And Gene from Los Angeles is wondering when was the last time Mvula was seen. I haven't seen Mvula for a while. I know he was seen in a property to the south of us, but interestingly enough, Tingana was also seen chasing him. So it seems like this dispute is continuing, and so these leopard tracks could just as easily be from Tingana. But what Aubrey did say, there were two sets of leopard tracks in the area, one going north, one going south, both as fresh as each other. So it'll be very interesting if someone does find them this evening, to find out whether it is Mvula or Tingana in the area. As far as his injury to his eye is, last time I saw him, it looked like it was healing quite well, and not really affecting him too badly at all. On the topic of leopards, Kathy in Florida would like to know what would happen if Karula came across Sindile by himself. Very interesting. I don't think she would kill Sindile, and that is just based on some of the behavior I've seen from leopards in the Sabi Sands before. I've seen a female leopard come across her daughter's offspring. She is sometimes quite aggressive towards them, hissing and whatnot, but I never saw them kill the offspring. But that's not to say that she wouldn't. But I think in this case, I don't think she would kill Sindile. I might be completely wrong. That's just my personal opinion on the matter. And a couple of years ago, I was very fortunate to witness the first ever recorded adoption by a leopard. A grandmother leopard adopted her daughter's son. It was a very, very interesting sighting. There was a female leopard called the Dudley Riverbank female who had 2 sub-adult male offspring. They were about, I think they were probably about a year old at that time, maybe a little bit older. And then her mother, which was known as the 3-4 female, had a cub of about 6 months old, and they both came onto an Impala kill that was being killed by the 3-4 female. And absolutely fascinating is that they shared the kill, and when they moved off, the one young male who belonged to the Dudley Riverbank female left with his grandmother and, I suppose for lack of a better word, his uncle. That particular leopard was actually killed, the young male that belonged to his grandmother, and she ended up looking after this young male all the way through to maturity. And as far as I know, that is the first record of that ever happening. And we've just stopped with one of my favorite trees on the whole of Djuma, and also my nemesis tree, which I nearly fell out of, alive, and quite a rare tree in this area. This is the only one I know about on Djuma and Arathusa. And you can see they've got wonderful pods. I'm going to see if we can find one. The Latin name is called Pterocarpus angolensis. It is a teak tree. Going to try find these seeds. At my house I actually have a huge bowl of these seeds as a display. We can actually see that the nice fresh leaves are coming out quite early, and it has been bare for quite a while, and now we can see there's some new leaves coming out. I'm just going to see it. There we go, there's some seeds right here. So, here we go. Here's the seed. This one's a little bit deformed, but normally they're perfectly round, and if you take this off, the little stem, they make really pretty additions. So in a bowl at home, I've got a whole bunch of teak seeds, and I've actually collected them from all over Africa. I've got some from Zambia, I've got some from Botswana, I've got some from Tanzania. I'm a bit naughty to travel with these things, but I do. And in that bowl as well, all the bush willow seeds. So I've got a whole collection of seeds that sort of, I think, look very nice in the middle of my dining room table. But there we go. And now I can add a teak seed from Djuma to the collection.
We had an uncle coming from the back. Sounds like Inyala barking.
And Vim's just heard some Inyala barking behind us. Well done, Vildy. We're gonna have a quick look there now. Okay, so we're just going to have a quick look up on the road there. This is the general direction that male leopard was supposed to be moving. So excuse my Ferrari safari. Just want to get there quite quickly. There's a crested francolin that's just alarmed in the same area. So now when we've got more than one species alarming, it's generally a better sign. What was that on the fire? So keep your eyes peeled. Have a look for tracks here. The francolin alarm call came from somewhere in this vicinity. I'm just going to stop and listen for a second. I'm going to stop where I can get quite a nice long view down this road in either direction. We're just going to listen very carefully now for a few seconds. We hear the fork-tailed drongo, but he's not alarming at anything. We're just going to have a quick look up this road. There's a big animal path that leopard and lion often use. You got your leopard spotting eyes out, wildebeest?
Let me just put them on.
And for those of you wondering why I'm referring to Veerm as the wildebeest, that is his nickname around camp. I think they might have been quite a lot deeper into this block, but we're still going to check these big game trails that the leopards use quite regularly. So this really big game path, there's a few of them. The main one I want to check is just on the crest of this hill. You might be wondering why we didn't return to the buffalo carcass. Someone else was just there and there was no action there. So I decided to move into this area where the male leopard tracks were and was hoping to maybe just try and grab a sighting of a male leopard before fireside chat. And so far, no luck, but it is not over yet. Someone coming out. Hello, how you guys doing? Good, thanks.
Yeah.
See you later. So that's just Mike and Candace coming home from a weekend away. Mike and Candace are Candace is the general manager at Djuma. So still not seeing any tracks. I do feel like the alarm calls were further into this big block to the north of us. So we're gonna loop around back down then the general direction of the track wasn't west, it was south. So go check. Maybe we might be lucky and it's popped out on the way. Oh, I've spotted something else. Not sure what it is just yet. Oh, no, false alarm. It was a leopard-like bush. We get quite a few of those in the Sabi Sands, and they do trick us from time to time. And closely related to the leopard-like bush is the lion-like stump, and there are also many of those. So we're freewheeling with the engine off down the hill, and that gives us a better chance to possibly hear those alarm calls again. So I do think they're somewhere in this general vicinity, or the leopard is. And we will try the last second to find him. Just going to listen again quickly. Unfortunately, whatever those Nyalas saw has obviously moved on and beyond them, and they're not alarming again. There's another car coming down the road, so I'm just going to move out of the way. And then, if we have a look at this tree right here, we can see another one of the seeds that I have in my bowl. I'm just going to grab it very quickly. Nice big one. It's called a Combretum calinum, or variable bush willow. Another one of my little decorations at home. They do make wonderful decorations, I think. There we go. I'm going to put it next to the teak. So guys, thanks very much for hanging out with me. It's now time for Fireside Chat, and apparently we've been getting some wonderful questions in, so well done. So we're going to cross across to Scotty, who's probably nice and toasty next to the fire, and I'm going to start shooting in that general direction to join him. So I'll see you in a few minutes, but enjoy your time with Scott while we make our way there.